We're bringing it straight to you. Welcome back to another live stream of the Mac movie reviews. I guess we're called the Oreo Podcast. That is our clan title today. I'm your host Mac. We will be joined here as usual, usual suspects Rod and Dom in a bit. So tonight's stream we are going to be doing. Last time we've done a couple videos on. Black movies and Christmas movies, me and Rod. This time we decided instead of doing a black movie, why not in fact just do something where it is the best Pixar movie in celebration of Hoppers coming out, doing pretty well at the box office so far. We decided I created this tournament. We are going to rank all 29, or not rank. We're going to pit all 29 Pixar films up to this date because, Hoppers is still pretty new. So there hasn't been time to really digest to see how it stands out. We're gonna battle all like 29 movies and see which one survives the Thunderdome. And we are joined here as usual with the white portion of the Oreo. That's my boy Dom from Talking TV Podcast. Dom, what's going on, man?
It's going good, Mac. I'm happy to be here, especially given that the last 24 hours have been some of the most tumultuous periods of my life. So I am just so happy to be back with people who genuinely I don't want to rip their heads off. So that makes me really happy. Also, I don't know if you can see, but I put it's like my AKA underneath my name on here, AKA white chocolate. I know the Oreo is not technically the white portion of the Oreo is not technically chocolate, but I feel like it was opportune.
Listen, as to quote a great YouTuber I watch, you a trill white dude. You trill, man. You. I can't say the word on stream.
Oh,
you know what you want. But
I know exactly what you're trying to say.
As we wait for Rod here, I will ask you,
Yes.
just kind of to start off the stream with that, what has been your experience with Pixar so far growing up?
I mean, I feel like there's not much else that I can add to the conversation that both myself and every other person in our age range has not already said about Pixar. But I mean, come on, it's literally, as I refer to it, it is literally the foundation of imagination, where you have Disney, which had kind of reemerged after a very, very difficult period throughout the 70s and 80s to, this animation renaissance in the 90s that eventually bore even more fruit in the 2000s. But during that whole time period, you have Jeffrey Katzenberg, who is fired from who is fired from Disney, right? He goes off and starts DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg and David Geffen. And then what happens is you have a couple of guys from ILM, right, which is George Lucas's visual effects company that he started during Star Wars, that is then basically essentially bankrolled by Steve Jobs. It's funny because I've gone over the origin story so many times and it's tucked away in like one of my many attempts to write books over the years was on the origin of Pixar. And so I did extensive research into the origins of it. But essentially it all comes down to the name of a man who, it's kind of conflicting because the dude who is responsible for basically a very, very large portion of our childhoods ended up becoming, yet another problematic figure throughout that tumultuous 2017 and 18, Me Too cancellation period. That being John Lasseter, the dude who is the credited director for the first two Toy Stories, and I believe A Bug's Life as well. So it's him, it's Andrew Stanton, it's Pete Docter. There's a couple of other guys that helped form like the initial Pixar brain trust, and through a combination of cutting edge technology, pure just innovation, and what's it called? And truly, like I said, the thing that nobody in this space ever talks about when it comes to the importance of why something becomes big, timing, right? The reason why I mentioned Jeffrey Katzenberg's name is because Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was fired shortly after this time period, was still working at Disney at the time. Famously, this is Michael Eisner's reign as CEO. A lot of people credit him as having one of the best reigns during the time of the company. And so, again, Toy Story comes out in 1995. It breaks every single record. It wins Lasseter and Company an honorary Academy Award for, basically inventing an entirely new model of animation. And then we're up and running from there. Bug's Life is 3 years later in 98. Toy Story 2 is in 99. Monsters Inc. comes out the same year that DreamWorks basically launches with Shrek. I mean, DreamWorks had a couple movies before then, but let's face it, DreamWorks starts with Shrek. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. And then the run that they go on throughout the 2000s, we're going to be talking about that a lot tonight. But I mean, it's a legendary all-timer run. Monsters Inc., the Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, The First Cars, which I still stand behind as goated. Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, Toy Story 3. Then the 2010s is where we start to get a little bit rocky with the whole, oh, we're going to just do all of these legacy sequels to all of our beloved properties, even though we launched on the idea of innovation and originality. And that's why, other than Toy Story 3, I famously said this. I know a lot of people love and defend Coco. I am not a Coco defender at all, mostly because I am unfortunately, yes, in that camp that, Book of Life had already done it 2 years prior.
Mhm.
So my whole thing with it is that Toy Story 3 and Inside Out are the only movies throughout the entirety of the 2010s that truly capture that original Pixar magic that we really made us fall in love with Pixar in the 2000s. The rest, there's some that are better than others, but for the most part, I could do without them. And then we get into the 2020s. We're in COVID. They have arguably their next masterpiece that drops directly to Disney Plus, that being Soul. Onward,
Yes.
I still factor in as part of some of the sludge that came out throughout the 2010s. But at the
Mhm.
very least, I credit Onward as being like, okay, after a string of very financially successful, albeit very mediocre sequels, we're finally starting to get back to some originality. And again, we have a new Disney CEO with Bob Iger stepping down in 2019. Bob Chapek takes over. His reign is nothing but rocky, which forces Bob Iger to come back at the end of 2022 and basically right the ship. You have 2 straight years where every Pixar movie goes directly to Disney Plus. And unlike the rest of the Disney movies that were going to Disney Plus, but behind a paywall where you had to pay like $25 in order to watch it,
Mhm.
all of these Pixar movies are going direct to Disney Plus for free. It's essentially the equivalent of Netflix movies. You have Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, all of which go to Disney Plus directly for free. And as if to add insult to injury, the Disney originals that are coming out at that time, that being Raya and the Last Dragon and Encanto, which were both released in 2021, were both released behind paywalls, versus Luca and Turning Red are both released for free. So that's why when people wonder like why it feels like the Pixar brand specifically, not Disney animation in general, because I know the two became very synonymous and mutually exclusive. There throughout the 2010s, the running joke was that as Disney original movies, their quality started to improve while Pixar started to depend more and more on sequels. The running joke was that Disney Originals just picked up all of Pixar's writers, because while Pixar throughout the 2010s was making all of these mediocre but financially successful sequels, Disney was having probably the best run that it had had since the 90s with movies like Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Moana, and Zootopia in the same year, And then they started to follow the Pixar track a little bit with Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Frozen 2. Frozen 2 being, I think, like their highest grossing movie of all time, possibly.
Yeah.
And like I said, so the 2020s gets off to a rocky start because of the COVID thing and the different treatment towards the movies. They're still treating their originals with some value by putting them behind paywalls, while the Pixar brand has officially been completely diminished and devalued, with them just being dropped on Disney Plus. Then Iger comes back. He starts to right the ship, but there's one problem. When we finally start to get these movies back in theaters, the first 2 animated movies that we get from both Pixar and Disney in summer and at the end of 2022 are Lightyear and Strange World. Which,
I will defend Strange Worlds. I thought it was a very interesting like throwback to the era of the Pulp Fiction type stuff, but like not like Pulp Fiction like motherfucker, but like the classic serial pulps of the 30s. And I just think that it. As we're joined here by Rod. Rod is here too. What's up, Rod?
What's up, Rod?
What's going on, gentlemen?
We're just talking about our early memories with Pixar, but no, I'll defend Strange Worlds, but I do get you with that. Because,
there's only so much I can speak to it because I haven't seen it. But the point being is that it was off to a rocky start when they got back to theaters, and it's been a little bit of a rough road. Elemental was well received, but it had a rough start opening weekend, but it did eventually make its money back. Inside Out 2 becomes a massive, massive phenomenon. But again, by that point, the 2010s had already showed that they had a proven track record with sequels. So Inside Out 2 was one of the safest bets they could have made. And this year it's been interesting because we're getting 2 Pixar movies again this year, one of which is an original, one of which is a legacy sequel, right? We just had Hoppers this past weekend, and then we're getting Toy Story 5 this summer, which is going to be a guaranteed hit. But now Hoppers, an interesting thing is happening with Hoppers where, and I can attest to this because my short that I released reacting to it ended up going completely viral in a way that I was not expecting at all. There seems to be kind of people are finally starting to come back around to the originality of Pixar, right? Obviously, again, they have proven that they put out a legacy IP sequel like an Inside Out 2, like a Toy Story 5. It doesn't matter what the quality is going to be. People are going to show up and people are going to watch it. But it's going to be very interesting to track their originals going forward. Well, you know what? Honestly, I can't even. I'm taking that back because as I'm speaking that, I just remembered that their next couple of movies after the movie that they have coming out next year, which is another original named Gatto, which is from the same director who did Luca. I can't remember his name, but their next 3 movies as of right now that are going to be after that are a third Monsters Inc., a second Coco, and a third Incredibles movie.
And don't forget, they announced too that Ratatouille 2 is in development as well.
Oh, fuck. I missed that one. Maybe I just ignored it and blocked it out of my mind. But I guess in order to kind of end my rant / explanation of my history with Pixar, it's going to be interesting to see if they continue to greenlight originals going forward or if they're going to just kind of go back to the whole, okay, we're just going to put everything into these legacy sequels because we know people our age are going to show up and bring their kids and basically ensure that we have another generation to keep watching these movies, or if they're going to like continue to take risks with originality. I don't know. Because the other thing too that also doesn't help is the fact that Pixar as a company is no longer the innovators of animation that they used to be and have not been for a very, very long time. Because right now, Sony Animation, by virtue of that fact, the movies that they are releasing in Netflix, like I can't give Netflix any credit because all the animated movies that Netflix has gotten have been because of the deal that they made with Sony during COVID. And there was one other that I can't remember off the top of my head. But as of right now, let's just say that Sony Animation, which is responsible for, and DreamWorks as well. So Sony and DreamWorks. DreamWorks basically by co-opting Sony's animation style that was basically all started with the Spider-Verse movies are eating their lunch. Because the thing that nobody talks about when it comes to modern day animation is that the animation itself is just as foundational as the storytelling. If you have somebody else that is dominating in terms of a revolutionary new animation, it doesn't matter how good the same old is going to be, you know? And that's kind of where I'll end my rant on that.
Okay. Rod, real quick, what's your history with Pixar? What was your first Pixar movie?
First Pixar movie that I remember, well, seeing in theaters was definitely Monsters Inc. First Pixar I remember actually watching was Toy Story 2. That's the first one I can actually legitimately remember watching for the first time. I still think Pixar is one of the best studios working today. I just think, we've talked about this on my podcast before. Disney Plus has damaged the Disney brand a little bit.
Yeah.
And by them putting things like Luca, Turning Red films, we'll talk about them later, but they've put out some things on Disney Plus that I think are great, and some things on Disney Plus that I think have not been great. But I think Disney Plus has really damaged the brand a little bit, the oversaturation of a lot of content. However, people, if there is a good kids movie out there, we have seen that the families will take their kids to go to the movies and see them in theaters. Mm-hmm. They will do it. Goat is making money. Hoppers is making money.
Hoppers is making a lot of money.
Wild Robot was made money. Sticking with Pixar, Elemental had a very, very rough opening weekend, but word of mouth got out, and it made its money. I don't think it made all of its money back, but it became profitable.
I think it did. Let me check the box office for you there.
And that's a movie in which I love. I love Elemental.
Same. I very, very much enjoy Elemental. I was like, wow, this finally Pixar is back.
So I think what we're going to see here in the next few years, especially with Iger now getting ready to leave this year, we're going to see more sequels moving forward. However, I do think we're going to get the occasion. It's going to be like what they did this year. They'll do an original film and then do a sequel.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Every year. So, like Dom said, we're getting, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Incredibles 3 is first, then Coco 2, and then Monsters Inc. will probably come out sometime in the early 2030s. Yeah. I didn't hear about the Ratatouille 2 thing.
Same. Like I said, that's news to me.
Yeah.
Or I guess it was it might be painted as it might be. It's just it's in the grapevine, so not confirmed. So
my whole thing is they better not fucking touch WALL-E. They better.
Yeah, they better not.
I heard some rumors too, but like I said, we're not gonna.
I think we'll get an Inside Out 3 before we get.
We'll absolutely get an Inside Out 3. That's without a doubt. And I've said this before too, is that the reason why I have such a problem with so many of these Pixar sequels is the fact that because they prided themselves on originality for so long, like during their initial couple of years, and because their stories were so tight and rock solid, it felt like both a betrayal and it felt like those stories felt naturally concluded. I have famously said that there was all the originals that they released between 2000 and 2015, the only one that I thought would actually be worthy of a sequel because it set itself up in such a way that would make for interesting stories going forward is Inside Out, right?
Mm.
And funnily enough, I will say that the Monsters Inc. 3 premise does sound interesting, only because Monsters Inc. so far, outside of all of them, was the only one that also took its sequel in an interesting direction, and that it chose to do a prequel, not a direct sequel, which I think it was an actually interesting direction, even though Monsters University is vastly inferior compared to the original. And Rod, just to answer your question, so Elemental ended up making just about $500 million. It says $496.4 million on a $200 million budget. So you tell me as far as whether that's a success or not, because these days I don't fucking know what a success.
I mean, I don't think they put in their budget when we see online their marketing budget. So it probably made a little bit of its money back,
which is always the thing that is like kills me, because I'm like, if the marketing part of it is so important, why don't you include it? Because that way you'll make the rest of us, the people who are, basically responsible, because at this point we're basically part of the movie's marketing machine, as far as our contribution to film YouTube. Why don't you make that available to the public? Because at the very least, then the kind of understanding of why certain movies are made, like again, the economics of this stuff is important ultimately, as we have learned, in order to continue to get the stuff that we love. And it kills me that they continue to be gatekeepers and continue to not be transparent But I don't know. Maybe
I love Disney, but they are the worst culprits of not sharing budgets with anybody.
Well,
they will just lie.
I don't know. Netflix would not release their initial viewing numbers at first.
Yeah, well, no one really cares about Netflix's numbers, though.
Not anymore. During COVID, when theaters weren't open, all eyes were on them. But now, because they mostly churn out slop anyway. So it's
get ratio Twitter. But we're gonna decide. We're gonna do a tournament. Like I mentioned, we're gonna be ranking all 29 Pixar films up until Poppers, because I'm assuming I have not seen it yet, and I think it's still too early to determine its quality.
Correct.
Or too early.
I've seen it, but yes, I agree. It's a little bit too early. It needs time to matriculate within the conscious.
So, boys, I'm bringing up a little cool website that we have. It's called Lee Wufu. Yes.
Ghetto website title, I tell you.
Where's Tyler Perry at? You guys heard?
BT shutting down.
Yeah, I heard about Tyler Perry.
BT shutting down. It's done.
Rest in peace.
Is this the end? Is this the end? Or are they going to continue to make Tyler Perry content?
I mean, he's already on Netflix. So I want to see if that goes all the way to Netflix.
Interesting.
Alex Cross 2. Let's do it.
Shut up, Ron.
Well, no, remember, they already got the Cross series on Amazon. So, and I heard it's actually good.
It is.
Yeah, I've heard it's good too.
Aldous Hodges is so much better than Tyler Perry. So this is a round robin tournament. There's 28 rounds or 29 rounds because it's 29 movies, or 28, whichever one we want to say. So we're gonna go through. We're gonna say which one trumps the other one, and then whoever is the survivor of it all will take home the prize. Boys, are you ready to go?
I was born ready.
All right, let us get right into this. So round 1, we have Finding Dory and Turning Red.
I mean,
oh boy.
Listen, you have the one. We're talking about sequels, and we have one.
It's shit versus shit. Like, oh my god!
I can't say Finding Dory is shit.
These are two of the. I mean, Finding Dory was just a movie that, again, you got to take into context when it came out, right? This is summer of 2016, which I famously said is one of the all-time worst summers in my life, considering the fact that outside of Civil War, Nice Guys, Central Intelligence, and a few of the movies that came out in August, Kubo and the Two Strings. I like Sausage Party, even though it's not that great of a movie. This is one of the all-time worst summers of all time, versus Turning Red, which was at the height of wokeness. I don't care what anybody says. This movie is woke written all over it. And I'm like, yeah, because I want to watch a Pixar movie about a teen girl who wants to go and see a boy band, basically going through the equivalent of a Hulk transformation that's supposed to be a metaphor for her going through her period. Like, no, I'm sorry. Know
this movie takes place a year after 9/11?
Oh yeah, there's that too. Which, again, why? Like, if I have to choose, if I had to choose, I would erase both of these movies from existence. But considering the fact that one is like at least trying something, I'll go Finding Dory.
I'd say Finding Dory too for me, because yeah. Next up, we have Up, yours versus Toy
Not
Story
even-
2.
Not even a competition. Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2, yeah. I mean, does Up deserve that much hate? Because I actually like Up.
You know what's funny about it is that Up, I think, is one of those movies that it's a combination of twofold. Because obviously, yes, everybody always talks about the opening scene. And yes, the opening scene is so good that it trumps the rest of the movie in terms of its quality. However, I will say that Up is also helped by the fact that it still came out during the Pixar Renaissance. And the fact that it was cushioned between two of their all-time greats with WALL-E and Toy Story 3, ultimately. Like, that run that they had post Cars from 07 to 10, Ratatouille, WALL-E, this cushion right in the middle, and Toy Story 3, I think is even more of a reason as to why Up is regarded as a masterpiece. Even though, let's face it, of all the animated movies that came out in 09, it's kind of one of the weaker ones, if not the weakest in hindsight. So yeah, Toy Story 2, without question. One of the best sequels ever made.
I agree with you, yeah.
Yep.
We'll go with Toy Story 2. Lightyear versus Finding Nemo, man. This is a tough. Yeah. I mean, you didn't like the spot with Zurg.
We're not even having the conversation. We're not even having the conversation. Move on.
Next.
All right, Onward versus Soul.
Again,
Soul.
How is this even a discussion?
Yeah.
Soul.
Was Onward overhated, Andre, y'all?
Onward just came out during the when the.
Oh, that's true. Actually,
started.
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Literally one of the last movies we got before, came out 2 weeks before lockdown. So Onward didn't even have a chance. I think it's all right. It's like it's Pixar trying to do Marvel, and thankfully that crashed and burned before it even had a chance to get going. They're like, oh, Pratt and Holland were good together in Infinity War.
Next up, we got Monsters University versus Inside Out 2. So I'll defend Monsters University. I think that for it to be the prequel to the sequel was a bad call, but I still think as a whole, like over the years, it's kind of grown on me. I think it's actually a very strong prequel film.
Legit, this is an interesting topic for me because both of these movies are movies that I had zero expectations going into, and they both very, very much surprised me. Despite both being vastly inferior to their masterpiece originals, they are a lot better than the rest of the mediocre 2010s and 2020s Pixar sequel slop. Inside Out 2, I would say they made a little bit more of an effort during. But Monsters University, again, I give them credit for taking such a big swing, and that movie has aged well over the years. I think my vote is Inside Out 2, though. Rod, what are you going with?
For me, again, not really competition. It's Inside Out 2. I am not a big fan of Monsters University, truthfully. I don't think it's a bad movie either. It's not the movie I wanted, but the movie we got was fine. It was fun.
Yeah.
Inside Out 2, I still left crying, right? Even though it's not as good as the first one, sure. Man, it's timely, it's relevant. It's as a 20-something-year-old, I can't remember how old I was when this came out. I still connected with it, so it was great.
Yeah, Inside Out 2 is my vote here. And real quick, I just wanted to say that the lazy whatever emotion is voiced by the French chick from Blue is the Warmest Color, which for anybody who has seen that, not Lea Seydoux, but the other one, and for anybody who has seen that movie, oh my lord, the most graphic sex I have ever seen in anything.
Listen, Monsters University had my boy Charlie Day from Always Sunny when he's like, I can't go back to jail, so I always have that, but I'm gonna give it Inside Out to you. We got Elemental versus Monsters Inc.
God.
Tough one.
I mean, for me, it's Monsters Inc. because
it's Monsters Inc. for me too, but I do want to defend Elemental, and I do hate that it's getting knocked out this early as a result of the pairing. But because Elemental is really good, but come on, Monsters Inc. No question. Rod, it's down to you.
No, listen. I'm gonna go Monsters Inc. Myself personally, I would still put Elemental over Monsters Inc. For myself personally, but because I'm a sucker for romance, I think they do the romance right justice here. Plus, it's a really good immigration story. Also,
I agree. I really, really do love Elemental.
It's
tough. It's a tough pairing.
Listen, I know, I feel like if this wasn't paired with Monsters Inc., Elemental probably would have, if it went up against Brave or something, I feel like it would have won. Or Monsters Inc.
Yeah, why can't we get Elemental versus Brave?
Oh, fuck. Forgetting about Brave. I keep forgetting about Brave.
Oh, actually, speaking of it, here is probably two, because we have one, Dom, you mentioned this before, Coco, versus one that people really don't like. Is probably a lot of people's weakest, is that's A Bug's Life, even though it was the second Pixar film.
I disagree with that heavily, and I may be biased just because I watched Bug's Life was one of those movies that I watched so many times growing up. I personally think The Bug's Life is way, way overhated on. And if anything, I would say, again, Bug's Life also has an interesting production history because one could make the argument that without Bug's Life, we don't get DreamWorks. Because famously, when Jeffrey Katzenberg is fired from Disney by Michael Eisner, and goes over to Steven Spielberg to start DreamWorks, he takes the early designs for Bug's Life, brings it over to DreamWorks, and that's what gives them Ants, which is their first movie.
Ants!
And that's what launches DreamWorks. Versus Coco is literally a ripoff of an already existing movie that came out 2 years before, which a lot of people argue is better and has a more interesting animation style, that being The Book of Life. So for me, I go, this is an easy competition. I go Bugs Life on this one.
Don't forget that this was also the same time where Disney got flack for trying to get the trademark for Dios de los Muertos. When they tried to trademark
I don't know anything about that. I was in college and high on my
y'all don't know that?
Okay,
oh my
god!
So
I did not know.
Back in 2016, they tried to get because they were working on Coco. They tried to get the trademark for Day of the Dead, like legit. And I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And they're like, "Sorry, guys." And then this also got more worse because remember when this movie came out, they had that Frozen short, which was like 27 minutes.
That's right.
I
try to block that bullshit from my mind. Oh my god!
It was so hated on. They actually took it out of the Mexico theaters, but they kept it in the States.
Yeah. Oh man, they should.
They're like,
abolish that in general.
Coco. I mean, it's gonna scare the honkies away, so we might need to put a little Frozen beforehand. So.
I also just wanted to real quick back. I also did just want to throw out some of the casting for A Bug's Life, which again I don't think enough people talk about when they talk about it. Again, it really is just unfortunate because again I really think The Bug's Life just got screwed because of timing ultimately, and the fact that again it's 98, so Bug's Life is going up against Prince of Egypt and Mulan. And also Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue that year. Three of the greatest animated movies ever made. So I'm attributing that to timing. But we have in this cast, we have Julie Louis-Dreyfus as Princess Ada, Hayden Panettiere, young Hayden Panettiere as Dot, the little ant. David Hyde Pierce from Frasier, still during the height of Frasier as Slim. Dennis Leary, also famous for voicing another animated icon of our childhoods, the saber-tooth tiger Diego from Ice Age, as Frances, the ladybug who keeps getting mistaken as a girl. Early transsexual, who knows? What's it called? Who else? Madeline Kahn, famously known for her collaborations with Mel Brooks, as Gypsy. Bonnie Hunt, who would later go on to voice Sally Porsche in the Cars movies as
that's
Rosie.
right.
Brad Garrett, also another sitcom alumni from Everybody Loves Raymond, is Dim. And how could we not forget? Again, it's tough to talk about this guy because of what he's done personally, but still one of the greatest actors he's ever been experienced with. Kevin Spacey himself as the villain, Hopper. Like, I rest my case. So, like, some of Pixar's most innovative and ingenious casting.
I'd give it to Bug's Life, but Rod, what do you think, man?
So you guys already mentioned it earlier. Coco came out when I was in college. So this girl and I were dating at the time. We went to go see this. We both fell asleep before the movie even started because that goddamn motherfucking Frozen short just kept on goddamn going. Jesus freaking! That was like what 45 minutes. It felt
too long. That shit could have been 2 minutes. It still would have been too long.
God, terrible. So a part of me is like, I'm sorry. I need to give Coco another chance. I was only saying it once.
Said.
But I'm still gonna go Bug's Life because Hopper's death scene still scares me.
Oh my god,
yeah,
bro. And you know what's crazy too? That happened a year before Clayton's death at the end of Tarzan, which was not exactly the same. Is very, very similar. Like, the dude, I don't know what was going on in the late 90s with them giving, villains dying in the dark and during bad weather and in, a traumatic way possible. Because there was a whole line of it. Because you had Scar in Lion King, you had Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hopper in Bug's Life, Clayton in Tarzan. Like, there was a whole bunch of them that happened.
Don't forget,
Scar's death in Lion King didn't scare me as much as I thought it was.
I know, but I'm talking, in terms of, they're very similar aesthetics and similar ways in which all of them died.
They're like, guys, we have a way to do this. But I will say another part that scared me was the unhinged grasshopper that was chasing Hayden.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's kind of scary for a kids movie, guys. But I'm gonna give it a Bug's Life.
Also, was that a reference to the Gimp from Pulp Fiction?
I think it was actually.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah,
that's crazy. Hey, for adults, And here we have one that might be interesting. So you have Inside Out.
No, it's not.
Cars.
No, it's not.
Listen.
Competition, but I will give the first Cars. I will give credit. I do defend it.
Yeah, but Inside Out would win.
Inside Out.
Cars is overhated on. I actually like Cars.
I agree. People hold the sequels against
Mac. You better move on.
This isn't even a question. We're moving on.
Now listen. Give me my piece. I'm the host, damn it. I'm gonna give my piece. God dang it. So with Good Dinosaur, I will gonna say Ratatouille, but I'm gonna say this here: The Good Dinosaur is it suffered from releasing the same year as Inside Out. I guarantee you, if it came out a year later, it would have been like, because did Pixar come out in 2016 or something?
No, Pixar did not have a release. No, Finding Dory.
This would have done better than Finding Dory.
Mm.
Because like the visuals in it are honestly amazing. Like I love The Good Dinosaur. I will defend The Good Dinosaur. But damn it, Ratatouille, man, I was just talking about the scene where, because rats don't have a sense of smell. When he ran past the pot, when he smelled it, he almost vomited. That shit is fucking funny.
Yes, and that's just one of several things about the masterpiece. I will also say this about The Good Dinosaur. I have not seen it. This is one of only 4 Pixar movies that I have not seen. But Good Dinosaur was the only Pixar movie that this movie had such a massive troubled history. It was supposed to come out the year before in 2014. They pushed it in November of 2015. They also recast the whole movie. There were a bunch of other actors that were supposed to be originally part of the cast that then ended up leaving at the end, ended up replacing. So yeah, famously troubled history with Good Dinosaur.
Imagine being the Pixar film that comes out after Inside Out.
Yeah, you're fucked. Right? There's just no way, man.
You're done. You're done.
You talking about summer 2016? Summer 2015 was pretty good. I'd say it was good.
Summer 2015 was awesome. Summer 2016 was ass.
Next up, we have Toy Story versus Brave. This
isn't even a.
This was
move on.
2012 was the year Pixar made a Disney movie and Disney made a Pixar movie. Rebecca Rao.
Yep.
But yeah, Toy Story is better. Cars. So we got both sequels.
This is between y'all. I have no stake in this game. I've not seen any of these movies.
And Cars 3. Okay, so infamously, Cars 2 was the one that focused on Mater. And it was about espionage, and it was around the world, something about alternative fuels and all that shit. And Cars 3 was the one that had that cool teaser where we thought, oh shit, this is gonna be grim dark. Where, McQueen is fading fast. And we're all like, oh shit. Like, okay, that's cool. But then, it turned out to be like an okay third movie. But man, there's a reason why Cars 2 is rotten. Even though I don't get why. I get why it's hated on, because they were like, oh, Mater's popular, let's make him the main character. But it's so different. I mean, I vote Cars 3, even though I don't think Cars. All
right, Mac, this is all you.
All right, so
I have to abstain because I haven't seen any of these movies, and Rod is like, "This is all you."
Rod is motherfucker. So I'm gonna go with Cars 3. Cars 2, like I said, is just like, what the hell? At least Cars 3 there was racing, and it's just like, hey, let's just have a. You can tell Cars 2 felt like a straight to DVD film, so we'll go with Cars 3. Toy Story 4. Versus Elio.
This is the fourth one that I have not seen. I have not seen Elio. So by default, I have to vote Toy Story 4. Which, by the way, I will say that even though it is a completely unnecessary movie and should not exist, it surprised me. So I do give Toy Story 4 a shout out.
Oh no, that's Rod's favorite film.
Not from Pixar, but of the Toy Stories. Yes.
The Toy Story
4 is your favorite of the 4.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not gonna say I understand it, but I can get behind it because it's not a bad movie.
I mean, Elio was just boring to me. I didn't really.
Elio, I wasn't mad with Elio. But compared to Toy Story 4, no.
There was something that was going on with the weekend that Elio was supposed to come out. I remember because it was the weekend before 28 years later last year. And for whatever reason, I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is just one I could skip, which normally, again, my whole thing is I'm like, yeah, I've seen every Pixar movie in theaters up until this point since I moved to the city, since they started coming back to theaters. But this one I just felt like I could skip. And based on what everybody said about it after the fact, I'm like, well, it looks like I made the right choice. So, yeah.
I mean, Elio gave us the Hoppers preview. That's really all I remember it for. The end credits. So, but I'll do Toy Story 4 because it's a little bit more emotional. Yep. Incredibles 2 versus Wall-E. Fuck Incredibles 2.
Fuck Incredibles 2.
What? Whoa! Hold the. I mean, I agree. Yes, Wall-E. But hold on.
Now, I'm not saying in terms of like it being terrible. I don't think people.
I will say it. I think this is a bad movie.
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's a very disappointing sequel.
I have been saying this for years. I have been saying this since this movie came out, Ron. I do not like this movie. Not one bit. I don't think that the Mr. Incredible taking care of Jack Jack is a bad story idea, but this is a classic case of, it felt like they had an idea that was good enough for a short, but not enough to support an entire movie. I have said this before, Incredibles 2, there should have been a time jump between 1 and 2. The kid should have been a lot older. It should have been a lot darker. It should have been a lot more traumatic. The adjustment back to being accepted by the world should have been a lot darker and more difficult. They had a chance to go very, very mature with this one, and they chose to go backwards and go more silly and more kid-friendly. And the stupid Jack art fighting with the raccoon gets worse and worse with each year. Yeah, Incredibles 2, bad movie. One of my least favorite Pixar movies.
Now, I would say it's like But I just think, like, I do agree with the portion of, like, I just think, like, it was just more of a thing. Brad Bird just took his sweet ass time with this because, like, first of all, the sequel should have been out like already. Like, for it to wait like almost like 14 years for it to come out, I was like, damn. And like the thing is,
Well,
too,
Brad Bird was busy. He was making, he was making Ratatouille, and then he was bringing back Mission Impossible, and then he was making his original live action movie, which, okay, that Tomorrowland didn't work out so well, so we kind of had to go back to Pixar. But that's the other thing, too, also, is that Brad Bird was such an incredible get, because that's the thing. Brad Bird famously not part of the original Pixar, kind of brain trust, Lasseter, Pete Docter, and Andrew Stanton, who gave us, obviously, the Toy Stories, Bugs Life, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo. So Brad Bird comes in right off The Simpsons. He'd already kind of proven himself with Iron Giant, right? Because Spielberg noticed him, obviously, recruited him from The Simpsons, and then he does Iron Giant. But he was kind of, it was kind of, they took a risk on him with Incredibles. And the fact that Incredibles is so fucking good and such this revolution that almost kind of surpasses Pixar in general, the fact that it's regarded not just one of the best animated films of all time, one of the best films of all time, that for Incredibles 2 to be as mediocre as it is, and it just be so obvious that this is a paycheck job for Brad Bird, that his heart is just not in it the way that it was with the first one, it makes it a hell of a lot worse, aside from the obvious story problems that I mentioned before.
Bad villain, too.
Yeah, bad villain. Versus Wall-E, it's like, again, this is one where it's like, we don't need to say anything about it. We already talked about it, Rod. You already talked about it a lot on your Space Movies entry, so.
Rod, what are you not agreeing with our Incredibles 2 accurate takes?
I hate both of you. So
oh, we love you too.
Because
I hate both of you.
We're right.
I hate both of you, but we're gonna go with Wall-E. So now, what the hell is this?
Now we got Luca versus Toy Story 3.
Tricky. Because I do like Luca. I mean, it's obviously Toy Story 3, but I do like Luca, and I do think Luca gets a bad rap. And Luca was the first movie post COVID that showed me, I'm like, okay, Pixar does have a chance to continue. Because famously, when Soul came out, right, there was something about, I know we haven't gotten to Soul yet, but there was something about when Soul came out, watching it with my niece, who was only 2 at that time. We watched that movie together famously on Christmas Day when it dropped. Mm-hmm. And there was something about me watching it with her. And she's turning 8 this year. And she was already texting me with her mom's phone earlier today. So that just that twinged my heart just a little bit, and the fact that she's also getting into this book series that I was super into as a kid called Warriors, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. So like I said, it's me like entering my new phase as an uncle as I'm getting older. So there was something about Soul that really felt like it was closing the book on the Pixar that we had come to know, that we grew up with, right? And Luca being the first movie that we got post that, I think it was really interesting because, again, one could also make the argument that Luca is probably the most Studio Ghibli that Pixar had ever gotten. It's very slice of life. It's very esoteric. It's very much about like a magical world interacting with a real world, which is something that Pixar had previously kind of avoided because Pixar was all about enmeshing you entirely in the real world, in the imaginary world, and only having the real world exist on the peripheries. So I think that to have such a blending of that is really interesting. That being said, it's Toy Story 3 without question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toy Story 3.
I mean, I have not seen Luca, so I don't have any 2 cents.
It's good. I do recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
But, Toy Story 3 claw. Now we got the Incredibles versus Finding Dory.
The Incredibles.
Move on.
Incredibles.
One of the
Toy
best
Story
movies ever made.
2 versus...
Okay. Now we got a competition.
Now we're talking.
Now we got a competition.
Finding
now
Nemo.
We got a competition.
Finding Nemo for me.
Oh, you go find it. Hold on. Wait. Before we vote, can we at least have the discussion?
Yeah.
Can we at least have the discussion?
Yes.
Which
absolutely.
is that I love Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo famously is the first movie I ever saw in theaters, that I remember seeing in theaters at least.
Gotcha. Okay.
It may have been Monsters, Inc., but Finding Nemo is the first movie that I consciously remember watching in theaters. That being said, Toy Story 2 is I feel like, because of the overall quality of Pixar going forward, and also because I feel like when it comes to the Toy Story sequel, so many people were so wowed by 3 and what that pulled off. I feel like Toy Story 2 is still a little bit lost to time, which is unfair because it is a fucking masterpiece. Like, Toy Story 2 legitimately is not only one of the best animated sequels ever made, not only one of the best sequels ever made, it is a legitimately incredible movie because, need I remind you, this is where we get When She Loved Me. This is when the existential kind of quest theme that has been set up with the first one of, eventually the kids are going to grow up, and eventually the toys, what's going to happen to these toys when their kids grow up. The fact that they don't do that immediately, but the fact that that's the underlying theme throughout the whole thing and provides for one of the most interesting villains that we've ever had across the Pixar movies, Stinky Pete the Prospector, voiced brilliantly by Kelsey Grammer, who again is it's kind of unfair because again, it's also another one of those things where again, everybody loves and credits Lotso Huggenbear, from Toy Story 3, but again, Lotso Huggenbear has almost the exact same origin as Stinky Pete the Prospector, where again, Stinky Pete the Prospector was never played with as a kid, and as a result, only ever saw toys, getting ripped apart by kids as opposed to, being preserved in memoriam and always idolized and remembered. And he saw the idea of basically toys essentially being this ageless icon, as being better than being played with by children and serving their true purpose. So it's a very, very existential, very, very deep question that, again, I can make the argument that Toy Story 2 is the best of the 4 Toy Stories all day long. Versus Finding Nemo, amazing as that is, and I love Finding Nemo. Again, Andrew Stanton, very, very underrated Pixar score before Michael Giacchino basically started doing all the scores. I can't remember the name of it, but that Finding Nemo score is incredible. It's actually funny because in an interview recently, Tyreek Withers of him famously compared One Battle After Another to Finding Nemo. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, it's a vast oversimplification, but he's kind of right ultimately. And that Leo is Marlin, Chase Infinity is Nemo, Benicio del Toro is Crush, Lockjaw. I guess
someone just make that animation, please, for Christ's sakes, do it.
Yeah, but
please do that.
So this one is tough. That's why, again, I personally, if I'm voting with my heart, I'm going Toy Story 2 over Finding Nemo. Personally,
you bring up some good points, Dom. You do. I can every point with you agree. Plus, we don't even talk about the Jessie aspect of it all either.
That's the first thing I brought up. When She Loved Me. That's the whole movie. That's the whole movie in one scene because Jessie's literally like, again, it's like, this is what's going to happen to you. You never think it's going to happen until it does. Like, bawling my eyes out every time I watch that scene.
Yeah, and apparently there's going to be another. What's Emily moment in Toy Story 5? Apparently,
I'm sorry, it's not going to hit the same way.
It won't. It won't. But I don't doubt Pixar. This whole Toy Story franchise. Every time you doubt them, all they do is say, "Hey, f you," and we're gonna make you cry again. Anyway, Finding for me, it's that dad will do whatever it takes to get his son back. Because we see how scared shitless his dad is.
That's true.
After that intense prologue, right? That prologue was so haunting to watch the kid.
Yes.
I still get the feels watching it now. And what Nemo's life could have been if he had a mom and dad, right? But it's like the adventure and these whimsical characters he meets along the way. Crush, Bruce and his gang, the Shark Tank gang. Come on. The Shark Tank gang is just
isn't there another way? He's just a boy.
And I will say, as far as the Shark Tank gang, I'm glad that you brought that up, Rock, because Willem Dafoe is
oh my gosh, yes,
the most underrated fucking performance across the entire Pixar canon. Holy shit. Like that moment when like Nemo's like, I can't have a weak fin. And he's like, and he's basically like, says, oh yeah, well, my fin used to work. And then again, without saying anything, you just see the fin. And then when the starfish, the Allison Janney voice starfish is like, oh, he comes from the ocean, just like you, like establishing those threads. Like I will say again, I'm not saying like Finding Nemo is a masterpiece. Yeah, but my vote is Toy Story 2. But I do understand if Finding Nemo wins this round.
It's up to you, Mac.
You're the deciding one.
So with Toy Story 2, I will say it is like, I still like Toy Story 1, but Toy Story 2 is like leaps and bounds, so much like an improvement and everything with like introducing new characters, new plot threads, and everything. But Finding Nemo, man, it's to the point where the animation was so crisp that people, when they first watched it, thought it was real. Like with the ocean, ocean, like I will say, and the designs of you can tell they definitely did their research with the marine life. Especially the anglefish scene, that scares the shit out of me to this day, man.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But like the jellyfish scene is amazing as well, too.
The imagery of the whale coming out from behind you slowly but surely.
Yeah. And come on, guys. It has probably one of the best like Pixar gags. Mine. It's like, don't move. I know you found you. Mine.
Also, another insanely talented voice cast. Obviously, we know Albert Brooks is Marlin. Obviously, Ellen DeGeneres, problematic as she's become, whether she's a cannibal or not, that's to be determined. But we still love her as Dory. But also, guys, you know who voices the Pelican? Nigel? That's Jeffrey Rush. That's Captain Barbossa himself.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
But like, I will respect Toy Story 2, but I think I'm gonna have to give it to Finding Nemo, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Toy Story 2. So we got Soul versus Inside Out 2.
Soul, not
Yeah,
even a
no,
question.
It's
Soul.
Soul. It's Soul. Yeah.
That ending with the fucking between the two scenes that I always think of are him playing the piano and having the memories of his dad and going back to the great beyond, and then the ending when him and whatever number Icon Soul, the Tina Fey one, is both jump to earth.
22,
Tears.
right? Yeah.
22, yeah. Tears. Bawling my eyes out. Like, I remember throughout COVID and then into 2021, I would listen to that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score on repeat. Like, and the John Baptiste jazz sections. Oh, amazing.
Do you think
I would have loved to have watched this like Adobe Theater too. Oh my god.
For real.
Yes.
Do you think Soul's finally getting the love it deserves? I know at the time when it came out, people were like, oh, it's fine.
Which is insane because it won 2 Oscars, rightfully so, was my favorite movie of 2020. Still, if you ask me, is the best movie of the decade so far. I like this movie still more than Oppenheimer and Dude 2. So, as far as I'm concerned, it has gotten the love that it is deserved because everybody who's seen this movie knows what a masterpiece it is. It literally, again, it is, I truly do mean this when I say this. You know, and again, we had movies that literally were delayed and scrapped and didn't even have a chance to get accepted because of COVID. Soul, I think, suffered the most because of COVID. And because of the way in which it was released, it was not able to be celebrated the way in which it deserved to be.
And also, it came out the same day as DC putting out Wonder Woman 84 on HBO Max too. So not being, we didn't know at the time how good or bad, how you feel about Wonder Woman 84. We didn't know how bad it was. It's like, oh, look, a new comic movie's out. So,
that's true. Yeah.
And
Take that, Patty Jenkins.
Made a movie since.
What'd you say, Don?
Patty Jenkins has not made a movie since, I don't think.
She lost Star Wars because of that movie, actually.
No, no. She lost that. That movie was never going to happen anyway because of Kathleen Kennedy. Let's not think. Okay.
All right.
Now we got Toy Story. Oh wow, Monsters Inc. versus Bugs Life.
Monsters Inc. I love Bugs Life. It deserved to make it past the first round. Not against Monsters Inc.
That's true. Yeah.
Yep.
So then we got Ratatouille versus Inside Out.
Okay. Horse race.
So
Spinners versus one battle right here.
Man, listen, some heat.
Do you like cooking or do you like emotions? Do you like cooking as a means of self-expression, or do you prefer the best explanation of mental health that I have ever seen in anything? But again, keep in mind, Ratatouille is praised by Anthony Bourdain himself as being one of the best what's the word? The best visual example of cooking that has ever been put to screen. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I listen. These are both masterpieces in my eyes. I have no flaws with either. These are both in top 10 Pixar for me. It might be top 7, honestly.
Yeah,
Inside Out's in my top 5, though. I have to go with my heart and still go with Inside Out. For there is one factor, Dom and Mac, that separates Inside Out from Ratatouille for me. And that's Bing Bong.
Oh,
yeah, you're right. You're right. And also, Inside Out 2, again, I love Ratatouille. I was 10, but I was 10 when it came out. And so even though Ratatouille is a masterpiece and rightfully so does earn its flowers, the thing about Ratatouille is I turned 10 the year that it came out. And that's when I was starting to, again, just if I can explain like kind of my own thought process, that was when I was starting to, move away from solely watching animated movies. And I was, getting into my Star Wars prequels phase. That was also the year the first Transformers came out. I was deep into Harry Potter. So I was like, my tastes were starting to move away from animation. Versus Inside Out 2, I have very, very fond nostalgic memories of it. I watched this movie the week before I graduated high school with a big group of friends of mine. And we all kind of had this big, like, kind of come to Jesus moment of like, wow, like we are all kind of like maturing and moving on to like the next phase of our lives. So it like that made this movie hit even harder. So yeah, I gotta go Inside Out.
Oh damn, that summer 2007 was fire.
Dude. Oh, dude, summer 2007. The whole year of 2007. It's one of the 5 greatest years for movies ever.
Yeah. I will say too with Inside Out, like I've never been so emotional watching a Pixar movie. Not only just the Bing Bong scene, but growing up and kind of going through some like mental health stuff as well. The scene where they realize that sadness has to take control from Riley to express how she feels, that hit very like, damn, this is a really good like way of just explaining it, because it's like it's sending the message of like, hey, joy can't be your soul. You can't be happy all the time. You have to express your emotions. But I'll go with Inside Out, man. This is a tough one, but
with Riley and her parents at the end, man, that's just whew, gets me every
Also,
time.
also too, Inside Out had a really great short ahead of it. I Lava You. I watched that with my sister.
Yeah.
Like, cried
Yeah,
really
I remember
hard.
that. Yep.
Although that short, Lava. Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of the short before Incredibles 2. Yeah, Lava. Yeah, Lava was good. That
Does
was
Hoppers
really
have
good.
a short before it or no?
Which one?
Hoppers. Does it have? Because I haven't seen Hoppers yet. Does it have a short before it? Or
No, I did not see a short before Hoppers
Oh,
when I saw it. Now I saw an early screen, so I could be wrong, but no, Hoppers. I did not have a short before it.
I think we already know the winner
Toy
of this
Story.
one.
Not even a question. We wouldn't be talking about any of these movies without Toy Story.
Oh, sure.
Toy Story 4 versus Wall-E.
Rod, I know you love Toy Story 4. You know it's
I know Wally's still Wally.
Wally.
It's Wally. It's
So,
Wally.
do you think Toy Story 4 should have been it, or Toy Story 3 should have been it?
Yes, Toy Story 3 should have been it.
Okay. So here's what I'm gonna say.
I love Bo Peep, but she's not compelling enough of a character for this movie to exist. And Woody explaining her leaving at the beginning of Toy Story 3 was enough of an emotional motivation for them. Like, I didn't need to see this movie, and I don't give a shit about the Forky character. I could care less about.
I don't like Forky.
I love Forky. Anyway, listen. Hold on. To answer your question, I'm still gonna say no, it was not necessary because I think Toy Story 3 was perfect. Still is perfect. It's a great conclusion to Andy's story. After having seen Toy Story 4 now, that film was all about Woody and him moving on, finding his next adventure. I was good with that. People had a problem with Woody and how his problems with his ending. It is the same exact ending as Cap got in Avengers Endgame.
That's kind of true, yeah.
Yes, but what I will say to that, as far as if I can defend those people, is that I guess because Woody's whole story was always intertwined so much with Andy's, and Andy was such a good motivation for him, even though, yes, they did give him a hell of an arc in this movie, which, again, really impressed me. Just the fact that Andy was no longer around and in the picture, there just felt like there was something missing. And to me, like, the whole idea, I guess, that in my head, and part of the reason why Toy Story 3 felt like such a great coda, such a great ending, is because not only is this an end to Andy's story, it's effectively an end to Woody's, because Woody finally went through the thing that we were all worried about in 1 and 2, which is what is he going to do without Andy, because throughout Toy Story 3, he knows that Andy's going to give him up and he's still trying to get back to him, and he finally is like able to kind of, the fact that, remember, he's the one that puts himself in the box with the rest of the toys when they get dropped off at Bonnie's, not Andy. Andy was going to keep him and take him with him to college. So that's kind of where I go. Yeah, that's part of, adds more fuel to my fire that Toy Story 4 is even more unnecessary and was just an excuse to, go on one last Toy Story ride and make a little bit of extra money. And, we can bring back Bo Peep, and have a fun adventure. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's good, but it's unnecessary.
You're wrong, but Wally still wins.
Yeah.
Wally still wins.
Yeah.
Wally is bells and whistles. Toy Story 3 versus The Incredibles.
Okay. Another horse race here.
Now, listen.
I'm going to hear your guys' arguments first.
I'll go first. Toy Story 3 should have been there. Very emotional, very just good story, and just the way it is ended you mentioned before. Incredibles. Is Fights for a Case probably being the best Fantastic Four movie? That isn't a Fantastic Four movie?
It's still the best Fantastic Four movie.
It still is the best Fantastic
it is. And I love the new one, but yeah, this is still the best Fantastic Four movie.
But you're right, Dom, or it has surpassed Pixar to the point where, people can say The Incredibles is probably one of their greatest films, even all time made, with the score, Michael Giacchino, the story. The more of, you get older, you watch it, you get a more appreciation for it. Yeah. The very talented voice cast. Dude, I love Jason Lee as Syndrome.
It's bigger. It's better. It's too much for Mr. Incredible.
Oh, no, don't forget, you married Elastigirl and got busy.
This whole
family of supers. Oh, this is just too good. Also, there's a Mallrats reference because when he goes into the car, he's like, "You're the kid from the fan club, right?" But Brody, Buddy, my name is. And
that was great. And then, guys, come on. I'm sorry. I hate to keep bringing this back to race, but you guys are leaving out. Honey, where's my super? Where is the most real? No. Again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, please do. But the most realistic depiction of a black couple that I had seen up until that point, at least.
Don't tell me we're about to this woman. They're talking about the greater good. Greater good.
The greatest good you are ever gonna get. Dude, when you had white girls on my swim team in high school still quoting that shit, that's how you know that was some good shit.
Or don't forget when Incredible was helping him with Bon Voyage. He's like, and Incredible. He's like, Incredible? But I like it. Think of it too. Incredibles has some very heavy themes because I did not get he was stopping a guy literally offing himself when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
I didn't
shit.
realize that. I mean, it was one of the things where I'm like, I sort of got it, but I was a little bit too young to really process it. And as you get older, you're like, oh
And
my
then now
god! Like
you kind of see what Syndrome was doing by killing off the supers because
yes.
I think the best scene in Incredibles, and you can agree with me, is when Mr. Incredible sees all the superheroes that has to kill and that score is like do. And I've seen people make like analog horror of it too. It's kind of like really, really good. But dude, and then the Omni Droid is one of the best designed robots in film.
Also, really, really hot take. It's the best James Bond movie ever made.
Yep.
Oh shit!
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah. Yep.
But I mean, and also
the design of No Man is an Island, the base, the sequence when Elastigirl is sneaking into the base on those little paws, the whole design of the Omnidroid, like the space sequence is like, oh my god, like just visually too, the movie is like speaking a different language than animated movies up to this point. And of course, the scene that unfortunately influenced all of our sexual taste, Elastigirl checking out her ass in the mirror. Like, I'm sorry, like for that alone.
When Syndrome was gonna kidnap Jack, and then Mr. Crumble just yeeted a fucking car at the jet. I was like, god damn.
That's my good show, and it's like, yeah, superheroes can kill.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a dark ass death.
That's a dark death. Yep.
Because I thought he was gonna come back in a sequel, like, oh, he's the Screech, he's just mangled.
He's dead.
He's dead.
He is deader than dead. And like I said, the fact that literally, again, the movie created MILF culture. Like, come on. Like, even American Pie. This is the creation of MILF culture.
Well, it's not even just Elastigirl. It was his Mirage, too. I was like,
dude, the
damn.
You must that's sad. The voice actor, she passed away because she was the cop in Rush Hour 1.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I for me, it's Incredibles. Incredibles is my all-time favorite.
I love Toy Story 3, but yeah, it's Incredibles.
This is in my top 5 films of all time. Incredibles. Yeah.
Oh man. Finding Nemo versus Soul.
God damn it.
We're getting into the nitty gritty, guys. Listen,
God damn it.
So do we go with the film that revolutionized ocean animation, or do we go with Dom said is turning out to be probably one of the better Pixar or even films in general in 2020?
So motherfucker, god damn it. Dom said something that is making me pick Soul over Finding Nemo. The last like 15, 20 minutes of this movie are so freaking emotional.
Powerful stuff.
And powerful, yes.
Powerful stuff.
That last little conversation he has with, like, I guess I forgot what her exact title was, but she's asking him what he's gonna do with his life.
Your life, you won't get to live. He's like, that's okay. I already did.
Yeah. And just him embracing that second chance of life he gets now. I'm going with Soul. I have to.
It's Soul. I love Finding Nemo, but it's Soul.
Yeah, I'd say Soul too. I think
it's close though. It is so
very close. Oh, Inside Out. I love Monsters Inc. Inside Out. This isn't even a competition.
Listen, no, I'm
with Dom on Inside Out, but man,
I still have to say Monsters Inc.
It's tough. No, listen, I don't want to write off Monsters Inc. at all because again, it's what Monsters Inc. is in that really weird position where again there were just Pixar was just churning out banger after banger after a banger around that time period, but Monsters Inc. does not get something. Also, the fact that Billy Crystal and John Goodman were almost Woody and Buzz before they ended up, and their pairing was so good that we ended up getting this pairing. Like, yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. Does Monsters Inc. now, I think staying's too strong of a word, but I have a little bit of a debt in it because of Monster University.
I think so. I think it's been like, for me, I think that if we got the sequel that we wanted with them going to go find Boo, like I watched what's that YouTuber? He does the what could have been this movie. I forgot the name.
How it should have ended.
No, not how it should have ended. He's talking about like movie alter. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name of the channel.
But he does good videos. He talks about like other like alternative visions of it, and he talked about what Monsters Inc. 2 could have been, and I'm like, damn, like that would have been a better like kind of like conclusive ending to the story because in a way we don't know how the story ends. Because we only know how it began, which the thing too at Monsters University, it retcons a line in the first one. It's like, you've been jealous of my looks since grade school. And it's like, then they didn't meet until college. So it's kind of like, wait, there's a little hole in it too. So I think the sequel, it's kind of like Cars.
I'm
the
not going to
sequel.
say that it damaged it because I can still watch Monsters Inc. and enjoy
Right.
it for what it is. That being said, you are right. The reputation of this movie has been affected by the existence of Monsters University, you know?
Yeah.
So, and also, yeah, it's Inside Out. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it didn't stand a chance.
All right, I'll give it Inside Out. Fine. Toy Story versus Wall-E.
Okay, so now here's a really interesting discussion here because, again, so the first Toy Story, right? There's this really interesting conversation to be had about the fact that, okay, because one could make the argument that every movie since the first Toy Story has improved upon it, right? So the question around the first Toy Story becomes, does the story itself match up to ultimately what it started, right? In terms of how it changed the game in animation and starting this generational run with Pixar, and the fact that, you know, like how does that compare, you know? Because my whole thing, and because this is the question I ask myself every time I'm looking at these rankings, is because for me, Toy Story is such a fond memory that I remember. Like, it's one of those movies where it has such that distinct 90s feel to it that watching this movie is like going into a time machine.
Oh
and
my
being
gosh, yeah.
transported back to a specific time, because even the animation here, compared to some of the efforts that would come only like 6 years later with efforts like Monsters Inc. and Incredibles, still feels so like dated, but at the same time so cutting edge because there was nothing quite like it. Even though, let's face it, Pixar has done a lot more mature, a lot more groundbreaking, a lot more existential stories since. But without the first Toy Story, we don't have any of these movies. That's kind of the conversation conflict that I constantly come back to with this movie.
So, okay, I hear what you're saying. I do. For me, we can still appreciate what came before, but still recognize that movie right there with the two little robots. That movie's a banger.
Yeah.
The first 45 minutes of this movie is basically a silent movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. It is romance in space with robots. You weren't even speaking English. So I mean, listen, this movie's beautiful. I love Toy Story.
So obviously, yes, I'm inclined to go, if I'm going with my analytical brain, Wall-E, I will say, is the better movie. But, and again, this is a thing where, again, like, I think this is the only time where I'm going to let my emotions get the better of me. And also because, again, of all of the movies, and again, for all those reasons I said before, Toy Story is one of my 10 favorite movies of all time, right?
Mhm.
There is the fact that, where was I just going with this? There is the fact that if we do Wall-E over Toy Story, then there will not be any Toy Story movie because we've already knocked out the other three.
Yeah.
That has a chance of making it to the finals. And I don't know how well that sits with me. Like I said, I'm fully admitting it. It's entirely an emotionally based decision. The fact that objectively speaking, Wall-E is the better movie, but it is entirely an emotional decision based on not only my fondness, not only what this movie means to me, not only what this movie means to cinema as a whole, but again, the fact that we literally would not have an entire, because it's not just Pixar that we have without this movie. Without this movie, we don't get Disney revitalize their structure. Without this movie, we don't get DreamWorks. And as a result, we don't get kind of all of the other incredible animation that we get as a result, you know? I know that Miyazaki had already been making movies, but one could make the argument that Toy Story and its success spurs Miyazaki to, you know, work even harder and go even harder on Princess Mononoke, because from this point on, Pixar and Miyazaki are going back and forth at each other in terms of who holds the edge in terms of animation, because Spirited Away is only 1 year after Shrek and Monsters Inc. So
you gotta think about too of like what Toy Story was made out of, because I don't know if you know the story about, you mentioned Jeffrey Katzenberg leaving.
Right.
One of the things was Toy Story was originally going to be Black Friday.
Yes.
And that the footage of Woody just being an asshole, it feels so like, damn, this would have not worked out the well as it did with Toy Story.
Exactly.
But, like, you know, like, Toy Story, I do say with Toy Story, like, watching it now, like, now it's 30 years later, the animation does not hold up.
The animation doesn't hold up. Agree.
Oh my god.
Agree.
No.
It does not hold up. The human figures in that movie. Have you noticed a little bit where they pointed out where all the other kids that are in Andy's party are just like replicas of Andy? They just hit Control C with Andy on all those kids.
But I will say, it being like a grandfather, you have to respect, because if it did not do well, it didn't like succeed, Pixar would not be where it is
Not even
today.
just Pixar. We would not have effectively our childhoods. We wouldn't have it.
But so like, I think I'd still do Wall-E, just because Wall-E, I do feel like that story is a little bit more poignant and just
Another
like
romance story, sure.
I
love it. And it predicted everything about the world that we are living in right now. Wally was 100% right about everything that we are living in. Earth is resembling even more and more of a hellscape. Elon Musk, I know, is working on those rockets to transport us up out into the cosmos. The obesity epidemic has only gotten worse.
Yep.
Wally was 100% right about everything that has happened in the 18 years since that movie came out. That being said, my vote here, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is Toy Story.
Well, I'm still going Wally.
Wally.
But, however, you guys mentioned something about the animation, and you're right, it does not hold up. But goddamn, that story and this being with these characters, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
I think we might have to go to Toy Story then, kind of like a grandfather rule then.
Shit. No, forget it. I said anything. Forget I said anything.
Well, it's hard because it's like,
Rod, I'm gonna win you over with one thing, right? Okay. Buzz, we're flying. This isn't flying. This is falling with style.
All right.
Don't forget when they scarred Sid too, and they did. I wish they never deleted the scene when Buzz was like,
"Nice."
So I wish they didn't delete the scene when Buzz was like, "Hey, do you think we're gonna scar that kid for life?" And Woody's like, "Nah, he'll be fine.
He'll be fine."
Like, they should have kept that in. I'm like, yeah, because he showed up in Toy Story 3 apparently. Yep. I think I'm gonna go with Toy Story, just in terms of
Woody being an asshole. He's still an asshole.
He is.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh, look at alien. Where? He just starts laughing.
I mean, in Toy Story,
he only tried to murder Buzz.
Yeah, he tried to murder Buzz. Yep.
Dude, one of my other favorite scenes of this movie. The best one is like, hey, where's my hat? Look, I'm Woody. Howdy. Give me that. But okay, we'll go with Toy Story. Yep. So next up, this is the semifinals. Incredibles versus Soul. Now I'm gonna go with Incredibles because, like I said, Incredibles is my all-time favorite Pixar movie. So
yeah, I mean, listen, if Dom can pick with his heart, I'm picking with my heart too, and I'm picking the Incredibles.
I think Incredibles.
I'm a fan growing up as a superhero fan all my life.
I'm going Incredibles.
It's Incredibles.
It's Incredibles.
Oh God, it is hard though, because damn. Yep. But Soul, I mean Incredibles, we're gonna go with, and then we have Inside Out versus Toy Story.
Okay, now for this one, I have to go Inside Out for myself personally. I have to go Inside Out.
Yeah, I'm going Inside Out. I love Toy Story, and it was tough picking that over Wall-E, but yeah, Inside Out.
And that leads us into the finals. Incredibles versus Inside Out. So, do we go? These are two, if you think about it, so I will start. These are actually two era-defining films for Pixar, because if you think about it, Incredibles came out when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Inside Out came out to kids who are growing up and are starting to maybe enter the middle school, high school years.
Actually, I hate to break it to you, but the kids who grew up with Inside Out, not the kids born when Inside Out came, the kids who grew up with Inside Out, they're in their early 20s.
Yep. Holy shit.
Yep. At 11, a kid who was 11, put this in perspective, a kid who was 11 years old when Inside Out came out is 22 years old this year. And that kid was born the year that The Incredibles came out. We are old, gentlemen. We are old.
But these are two era-defining films, I'd say.
Yes.
Of the 2000s and 2010s, and have, I mean, Inside Out has a better sequel. So that gives it.
No, hold on. No. Let's not make that.
Come on. We can't factor the sequels into the argument. We can't factor the sequels into the argument at all.
Because that's okay. Let's put Toy Story back in here in the race.
Jesus.
I am going, for me, as much as I love Inside Out, I am still going with The Incredibles. I think you said it, Mac. The older we get, the more, I won't say relatable, the more we can connect to this story of The Incredibles. Oh my, yeah, a guy's trying to off himself. Mr. Incredible's going through a midlife crisis. That was going over my head when this movie came out.
This hits an unfair.
Here's the only issue with that argument, Rod. That exact same argument can be applied to Inside Out. The only difference is we were older when Inside Out came out, so we were more consciously aware of that
for myself personally. Yes.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah. So Yeah, I love Inside Out, but Incredibles for me, and this is just the comic book superhero part of my brain and my heart.
Okay, but
Will
okay, here's what
always.
I'm gonna bring up because again, I am legitimately like I'm having such a hard time with this with figuring out like this is legitimately one of the hardest decisions that I have ever had to make in my life. That I'm literally gonna pull every single fucking string, every single obscure thing. Do we hold superhero fatigue and everything that happened with both the height of the MCU era and the post-COVID and the post-MCU COVID era? Are we holding that against the Incredibles?
I'd say no, because even with that, The Incredibles, people would go back and say this was when a time where you could actually make a good superhero movie.
Yeah.
With that, because The Incredibles was kind of survived all that. Because
and the thing about the early 2000s is that again we look back at it as this period of nostalgia, right? Of because it's such a foundation for all of our developing superhero taste because we were kids when all those movies. But again, I understand. Again, I don't believe it. I don't subscribe to it. But there are people who make the argument that 2000s region was better than the 2010s prime MCU era, purely for the simple fact that because superheroes weren't as big and weren't as mainstream, they could still take more risks. They could be more experimental. Not everything was as serialized. We didn't have the idea of a cinematic universe. And so the combination of the fact that you could get something like The Incredibles in the era when you were getting the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, obviously, you had Christopher Nolan kicking off the Dark Knight trilogy 1 year after this movie comes out. The late 2000s is a lot rockier, but obviously 2008, we get Iron Man. So
That's, you know what, Mac? We did do that one day, like the three of us, like MCU 2010s versus Pixar 20. That's a good conversation.
Ooh, that's another tournament we can host there. That's actually.
Which I'm sorry, if you ask me, I think Pixar wins that in a slam dunk. But
oh god, yeah,
just because better storytelling. But that being said, so here's the thing, right? Because obviously it feels like this conversation is leaning towards Incredible. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate and I'm gonna lean towards Inside Out, and I'm gonna make the case that. Inside Out had a harder time. Had more of an uphill battle because Incredibles is coming off of Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., and Finding Nemo. And one can make the argument, as we've just basically decided throughout the course of this tournament, that Incredibles was ultimately the peak of all of that. And there's a reason why there was, obviously, again, Disney CEO shifting, Disney acquiring Pixar, all of that stuff happening in the year in between Incredibles and Cars. Inside Out is coming off of, arguably, again, Toy Story 3, a movie that basically between that and Cars 2 1 year later basically is starting to make people scratch their heads and being like, what the hell is going on with Pixar? And then following up Brave and Monsters University. And then you've got the production of The Good Dinosaur, which delays that movie till post Inside Out and screws it. And the fact that Inside Out was able to overcome all that baggage, all that adversity, the fact that the prime Pixar demographic, the first Pixar demographic, people our age, were already starting to grow up and come of age. Rod, you would already graduate high school. This was the summer I graduated high school. Mac, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head how much younger than us you are, but like you were either just entering high school or like midway through high school. So
Inside Out.
Yeah, this is.
I was about to enter my sophomore year.
Okay, so I feel like the argument still stands. So Inside Out 2 had a harder, had a more uphill battle to fight. And the fact that Inside Out is not only regarded as one of the best Pixar movies, one of the best animated movies of all time, one of the best movies of the 2010s, I'm pretty sure Inside Out was one of the few movies that made almost everybody's top 10 lists in 2015. And again, the fact that Pixar, which up until that point was known for doing primarily external stories, right? Again, like famously the fact that Incredibles was their only humanoid story and all the rest of their stories were about, again, tangible yet imaginary creation, monsters, fish, rats interacting with humans, robots, talking dogs. Again, the less said about Up, the better. And the fact that they chose to go internal, the fact that they consciously took the theme that had been underlying all of their movies up until this point, the idea of growing up and maturing and throughout time, right? Not like throughout the course of a movie, right, where it can all be compressed and shown through montage in the course of 2.5 hours, but over the course of almost 2 decades, right? Oh, actually, no, yes, 2 decades, because this came out at the 20-year mark for Pixar, right? 2015. And the fact that they chose to literalize that, The fact that they literally said, we are literally going to tell a story about the emotions that are making the decisions and showing the maturity process in real time. I've never seen a movie do that, let alone an animated movie. That's my case for Inside Out.
I will give you this with the Incredibles, though. Think about it, too, at the time where you talk about how Inside Out at the time they were doing more of the external during internals. When the Incredibles got announced, don't forget, people were actually very disappointed because they were actually focusing on humans. Because it was only the objects, the fish, the fish, Toy Stories, the bugs. Like, people were like, oh, Humans Incredibles, this is not going to do well. But for it to come out and, like, kind of be like, oh, shit, Pixar can do human stories, too. Not just toys or bugs and stuff like that. Like, I get with Inside Out, as we get older with that's becoming more and more prevalent, especially with the mental health, emotions, and everything kind of going more in the limelight. But thinking about Incredibles 2 in that golden age of Pixar and kind of like being the crescendo of what we got from Toy Story to then, I still think like for them to say, hey, we can do human stories as well too, shows like, hey, this is like our magnum opus. This is what we're never gonna peak. Like this, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't The Incredibles in for Best Picture or just Best Animated?
No, Best Animated.
No. Okay. Should have been for Best Picture.
Should have been.
But, and to think about too, Incredibles kind of is influential to the superhero genre because how many other superhero films that have come out post Incredibles, they can say, oh, that's from the Incredibles and stuff like that. There's stuff in this movie that was in that. So I love Inside Out. I said, like I mentioned, it's emotional. I'll still go with Incredibles.
Yeah, like I said, it's again, I was mostly just playing devil's advocate, for the sake of kind of playing devil's advocate, because I wanted to give Inside Out a fair shot because it felt like we were kind of already leaning towards Incredibles. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. This is the finals. If there was ever a point for us to like actually have a real discussion and actually like really like try to fucking like hash it out, like it's now,
So I'm going to say something. You mentioned, Dom, something earlier about Inside Out had the tougher job, and I agree, it had a tough job. But for me, myself personally, I think it's more tough to keep the momentum going, seeing where Incredibles is coming after that 3-movie stretch of Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo. Imagine being the one after that to kind of ruin that momentum. God damn.
Yeah.
What came out after that?
Cars.
Oh.
Hey, listen.
I don't think Cars ruined the
Cars influence. Cars, I have said this before. Cars is the reason why Zoomers now, I'm not talking Zoomers our age, I'm talking like the like 18 to like 25 demographic now. Cars is the reason why Zoomers are obsessed with F1. So
it's true. Yeah.
Yep.
But we're going to have to give it to Incredibles, man.
It's Incredibles. I love Inside Out. I'm glad it made it to the finals. It deserved to make it to the finals, but yeah, it's the Incredibles.
And we have a winner, so we have the win here. Incredibles takes it. I mean, it kind of was predictable, but you never know. It could have been an upset.
I thought one of the Toy Stories was going to make it, so,
I legitimately didn't know what it was going to be going in.
But these are all 29 films of here, as you see, we got here. Obviously, if we did like a Disney Renaissance, we could. And actually, this is a public quiz, too. We can see what other people... There's been 221 tournament plays. And like you see here, I can see which one has won the most. Shocking. Incredibles was the one. Yep. It has a 72% win rate. But WALL-E actually has like a 66.9%.
Cars being in 3 is base. That shows the amount of Gen Zers who participated in that competition.
Yep. And then we have Ratatouille at number 4, and then Coco
way too high.
5.
Way high.
Toy Story 6, Toy Story 3, 7.
Toy Story 6. Wait, we get Toy Story.
Toy Story at number 6. Toy Story 3 at 7. Cars 2 is 8.
Bro,
in the stream.
I will say, amongst Zoomers, man, I blame Zoomers for this ranking. Listen, amongst Zoomers love Cars 2. Like, that's dude, true. I remember a couple of my fraternity brothers were staying at my place last summer, and I had this one fraternity brother, even though he was high out of his mind the whole time, was non-jokingly trying to make the compelling case to get me to watch Cars 2. And I'm like, Marcus, it's not gonna, I love you, but it's not going to happen.
Really?
It's number 20.
The Brave and Good Dinosaur.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
It has.
I blame Zoomers for this.
It has to be.
I blame Zoomers for this.
But
what the hell are we doing, people?
I don't fucking know. That's like that is such a bad.
Listen. I look at this as an opportunity for us to continue to coach the younger generation to actually make smart choices.
Yeah, fuck them kids, man.
Don't do drugs, kids. That's what I said.
Sorry, Rod. Remember, this is a generation of kids that had ChatGPT in college. All right, we're not exactly talking about some brain trusts here.
That's
Yeah,
true. I
that's-
remember it was Quizlet for us.
Yeah, Quizlet.
yeah,
Quizlet.
But this has been a short stream. We just want to do the Pixar. Let us know if you've seen Hoppers, and let us know if you like it or love. But boys, where can the good folks find you at? Because we'll do another stream, but our next big stream will be the Michael Jackson best biopic movies. We're probably doing the same format as the tournament. So, boys, where can they find you at?
At Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talking TV Podcast across all platforms.
Rod.
Cinema Gallery and the Infinity Film Podcast across all platforms.
Awesome. You can find me at Mac Movie Reviews on all cross platforms. Have a good night, y'all, and we will see you all in the next stream. Peace.